This is the Gen Y Leaders Podcast. Welcome to the Gen Y Leaders Podcast, where we guide millennials to become the next generation of business leaders and entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Eric Huey, and multiple times a month, we bring you interviews from high-performing millennials who are challenging perceptions and changing expectations of our generation. Our mission is to help you overcome fear, take action, and go confidently in the direction of your dreams. It's time to start preparing now, mainly because 10,000 baby boomers are retiring every day, which will create a vacuum of career opportunities that you've been waiting for. Will you be ready?
Welcome, Gen Y Leaders, to the Gen Y Leaders Podcast. Of course, I'm not the regular host for regular listeners. My name is Jonathan Hale. I am the social media manager for the podcast. Eric Huey has been kind enough to let me sort of take over the reins today. So we are joined by Alison Hop. Alison is the Vice President of Sales at Ministry of Supply, which is a clothing brand that's sort of at the intersection of technology and fashion. So welcome, Alison, to the podcast. Really glad to have you here. So just to kind of start out, who are you, what do you do, and sort of what's your why, what drives you?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. Super excited to be here. So I am our VP of Sales, as you mentioned, at Ministry of Supply. So I oversee all of our brand marketing, digital marketing, performance marketing, and advertising, as well as our retail and e-commerce. So we kind of break out our total business into design, make, and sell. So I oversee everything on the customer facing and the sell side of the business. So my why, which, I think is changing all the time, I'm sure for all of us, I think at every stage of my career, every stage in any role that I'm in, kind of that why seems to evolve and seems to change. But, I think at my core, I've spent most of my career in the fashion and the retail industry and really kind of believe in the power of what you're wearing and how that changes your life and changes your day and changes your outlook. So I'm constantly interested in learning and growing and really focusing on that area of the business.
Very cool. So how long have you been with Ministry of Supply?
Yeah, I just hit my 6-month anniversary with Ministry of Supply. So I came on board back in February. So it's been a really interesting first 6 months. It looked totally different than I thought it would. I had been in the office for about 6 weeks, and then we went, the country went into lockdown and everyone went remote. So definitely a really kind of crazy, but also challenging and in a good way, kind of first 6 months on the team.
We're crazy similar, because I had just started a new job February 3rd, and then 5-6 weeks in.
Yeah, it was a lot. Yeah, I think it was the second for me. So it was, that first week in February totally changed things.
So what was your relationship to the company before you started? Were you a fan or?
Yeah, I had been, I was aware of the company before I started. So I had definitely, come across it a few times. I didn't have any direct connections with anyone at the brand. But I actually spent the last 5 years in New York City and had made the decision that we were moving to Boston late last year. And so I kind of immediately, I had a full spreadsheet and a big research document going on and was kind of at this pivotal point in my career where I knew on paper the type of company that I wanted to go to next. And I knew I wanted to be somewhere a little bit smaller, a little bit scrappier. I really wanted to focus on a sustainable brand and kind of building up a business that I really believed in also. So it was really serendipitous when I was connected with the team at Ministry of Supply, and that they had a position open because it definitely checked all the boxes. So even though I wasn't super familiar with them, once I started doing my research for, who I would want to work for in the Boston area, it became really clear. And then the stars kind of aligned and everything fell into place.
Very cool. So how does someone new sort of come into an established company, an established brand, and sort of put your stamp or put your mark on it?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that answer is probably different for everybody, right? Like, I think that's what's so beautiful about working on a team of our size, or, for a smaller company, is that you get to see kind of where everyone's skill set lies, and everyone brings something different to the table. So, in my role, I've often seen myself as kind of the great facilitator or the great connector, right? I think so much of marketing and commerce and how you represent yourself in any kind of customer facing vehicle, your job is so multifaceted, and that you need to make sure that brand story and kind of the product intent, all the way from the person designing the garment, makes it all the way downstream and is also relevant for the customer who's buying it. So I always say that I'm just a really, really good kind of project manager, and like, connecting all those pieces and connecting all the dots internally. So I think that's typically what I hope to and like to kind of bring to the team whenever I join.
Very cool. So for anyone who knows Ministry of Supply, it's a very technical company. It's using NASA technology to sort of make everyday work clothes. And I apologize if that's not like the correct term.
You got it.
Talk about, I guess, maybe on the sales end, it's not as prevalent, but sort of the research or the market research that goes into producing those types of products.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I feel like as someone whose background is in marketing and commerce, I'm learning every single day in my role too. So, it's fascinating and amazing to kind of watch the iteration of a product from an idea all the way to a sample or to a production piece. We definitely conduct market research. I think one of the things that we really pride ourselves in is not chasing trends. And so while we, pay attention and keep a finger on the pulse and kind of what customers are looking for, we're also kind of constantly looking at new technologies and kind of marrying that silhouette or that what we want to produce with how we're going to produce it. And so there's very much kind of a scientific process that goes into researching and creating our products as well. And again, that's where my job is really to make sure I understand that, so I can share that with our customers as well, and making sure that it kind of, attaches to that piece all the way from the beginning until it arrives on your doorstep and you're wearing it, around your house.
Cool. So obviously this year's sort of not exactly how people have planned it. I think to state that nicely. How has COVID sort of, I guess, maybe changed plans or sort of maybe brought about things that you weren't expecting, and how you've had to roll with those changes, I suppose?
Yeah, I think it has obviously changed every single facet of the business, like it has for all businesses, and in some really literal ways, and also some really, hopefully silver lining type of ways. So, just at its core, so we pivoted and we made masks. So that was one of the first, right after lockdown, we instantly pivoted and created a mask that we were donating. We donated thousands of masks to healthcare workers and frontline workers. And that became, a core cornerstone of what we were doing every single day. And we were raising funds in order, we were collecting donations and putting that straight back into kind of the cycle of production to get PPE out as soon as we possibly could when there was a shortage in the country. And then we really quickly pivoted after that to sell masks, right? So once we realized that we were all going to be wearing masks for the foreseeable future, we pivoted, what we had learned from creating masks for healthcare workers and pivoted that to make masks for the public and understand how to offer that and what's really important and how to kind of put our own spin on it and make sure that, as someone who sees kind of scientific, research and execution as the cornerstone of our brand, how do we make sure that something we're putting out really quickly also fits all of those bills? So we did that, and now we're iterating again, and we're about to launch a second version of the mask, right? So we kind of do this frequent review and analysis and try to understand how we can make our product even better. So I think that's probably the literal answer of that. But, all of the other ways that it's affected us, we're working on being a remote team, right? We're working on how do we collaborate. We're such a creative group of people, and oftentimes, creative collaboration was so great when we were in a room together and you could kind of rally and touch and feel product and review it together. But that changed too, right? So just understanding how we update our infrastructure, how we find time and carve out time to still have those human connections. And then I think our business with how we, communicate with our customers has changed a lot too, and everyone's kind of habits and shopping habits and just how we're consuming information has changed. So it's definitely affected us across the board, but it's been a good challenge and something that we've taken on for sure.
So you think you found maybe opportunities that weren't necessarily present when COVID, before COVID?
Yeah, I think so. It's really funny. I've said it a couple times that, selfishly, it was kind of nice because for me that we have people on the team who have been around for 6, 7, 10 years since the company was founded. And then I was so new, but there was an element of we're all new now, right? Like we're facing this new normal together, and that we're all in, and I'm sure you've, hopefully felt the same way in your new role too, that it's kind of something that really levels us and gives us the opportunity to build whatever the next version of our company will look like together. And so it's, there are very few opportunities to approach things like that. So we've definitely tried to see that as a silver lining. And I also think it's changed the way that we communicate with customers, or the way that we just communicate with our community. And I think there's kind of a need and a desire for more organic and more kind of natural and real type of communication. So less edited or less, crafted and much more kind of organic and conversational. And I think that's great. Like I love the opportunity to kind of connect with people on a much deeper level than that. So, we're working hard on finding those little pockets of opportunity and supporting our team, our community within our team, and our community within our customer base.
Very cool. And something you said earlier, we're all working remote as well, and there was some project that came up. I can't even remember exactly what it was, but I got a chance to talk to one of our administrators, and we just talked for like 15 minutes. I was like, this is so cool. Something that, maybe would have happened more organically in an office, but at the same time, it's nice to be able to step outside of work for a few minutes and talk to a coworker, which is something that I didn't realize I appreciate as much as I do.
Yeah, it's so nice. We've done the same thing, and across departments too. We use Slack, and we've been doing a coffee meets donut chat, where it kind of automatically assigns you someone random on the team to spend 30 minutes with once a week. And it's so nice, right? You realize that, there are opportunities for that, and it's easier now. It's more accessible in some ways because you don't have to leave the office, that you can kind of quickly squeeze it in. So I totally agree. It's actually been nice to make some of those points of connection.
Very cool. Well, from previous experience or experience with Ministry of Supply, what would be your advice for fashion entrepreneurs?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I think my advice and specifically and kind of what I do, which again is kind of helping brands represent their brand story and helping, keep that integral piece of who they are and share that with customers. There's so much that goes into that. My advice is just to always seek new knowledge and new information. And, I think every role that I've ever had, if I've advanced or kind of whatever the next level has looked like, has never been kind of a trajectory of like, I want that job. It's like, I want to know more as soon as I have kind of a core understanding and a core foundation of, kind of workplace knowledge or, whatever that looks like. I want to understand the next layer and the next layer and the next layer. And, I think that could be applied to kind of any facet of the industry, any facet of the business, right? Take something you're interested in, dive in really deep. Don't be afraid to do any project, no matter how big or small or, meaningful it may seem, and to just kind of continue iterating on that knowledge. And it's very much how I see myself now and how I see myself in the future of, I just want to keep learning, and I keep seeking out that type of information, those opportunities.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So we always like to ask guests what resources or what books they've kind of read lately, or something that they, hold dear to them. So I wondered what would be your book or resource?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I think in the last 6 months since we went into lockdown, kind of the way that I'm consuming entertainment has changed so much too. So, one thing that I think is really important is to find opportunities for creative thinking. So whatever that means to you, and whether that's, a certain genre. I'm a big historical fiction reader, which has nothing to do with the workplace, but, making sure that I carve out time to give my brain a rest, or to keep kind of the motivation going. I think those little pockets of time are so helpful. From a resource perspective, there's a great website / Instagram that I've always really enjoyed called Ladies Get Paid. So I'm always rooting for, women in the workplace and kind of navigating workplace conversations around, promotions or project management or any of the above. It's a really great community, which I have found, a ton of helpful resources in over the years. And and I also follow a ton of Instagram accounts and listen to a lot of podcasts around fashion history, which kind of is the intersection of my professional life and just my hobbyist life, and what I like to read. But there's one called a podcast called Dress, the History of Fashion, and they've done a ton of great episodes. There was one I was listening to recently that was on how wartime rations in World War II changed the fashion industry, right? And history repeats itself in a lot of ways. And I think in my industry, there are a lot of learnings to understand kind of these big global events that really change the way that we think and that we get dressed and that we approach our lives and our day. So I love learning, kind of historical references to that too.
Very cool. Well, if people wanted to get a hold of you, or people want to find Ministry of Supply online, what would be the ways to do that?
Yeah, so you can go to our website. It's ministryofsupply.com. We're also on Instagram at Ministry of Supply. Personally, I can be found on LinkedIn, Alison Hop, HOP, and on Instagram as well. My handle is just my full name.
Cool. Thank you very much for joining us. This was a lot of fun. And
thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
That wraps up today's episode. We hope to have brought you some valuable key takeaways. Most importantly, whatever you learned, take action on it. Apply it to your life. Apply it to your career. Motivation and inspiration only come as a result of taking that first step. So if you're enjoying the podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe on whichever platform you found the show. You can also follow us on all the major social media platforms, or contact us directly at genwhyleaders@gmail.com. That's GENWHY leaders@gmail.com. Until next time, I'm Eric Huey, and thanks for listening to the Gen Y Leaders Podcast.